You're very welcome to St John of God Hospital. Damien O'Dowd is my name, and tonight is our first lecture of a series of 3 for 2024, entitled Mental Health, Diet and the Body. At St John of God Hospital, we continually try to raise awareness of mental health issues through a series of, outlets as such, media engagement, lectures, social media, and through research and publications, as well as the offering of ongoing evidence-based care to those who need it most. We also provide mental health first aid training across the country in clubs, colleges, businesses, and community groups. And we believe that talking about mental health and sharing information is of benefit to everyone in society. So before we move into tonight's proceedings, and I introduce you to our chair for tonight, there's a couple of just housekeeping and health and safety matters that I just want to bring to your attention. So just in the unlikely event of an emergency, we have 2 exits from the hall, one at the back through the doors that you came through, and one to my right or to your left. I'd ask anyone who has a mobile phone to either please turn it off or to turn it to silent. For the first time, tonight's event will actually be live streamed, and it will also be available on our website thereafter. And the format for this evening will be that we'll have a talk for 45 to 50 minutes. And following the talk, there will be a short interval. You will have a questionnaire on your seats. And if anyone would like to put a question to our panel, you're welcome to fill it in, and it'll be collected during the interval for our Q&A session. We plan to finish this evening by 9 p.m. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our speakers and chairpersons for their time and input, and to thank everyone who's assisted in the organisation of this year's public lecture series. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our chair for the evening, Dr. Amy Watchorn. Dr. Watchorn is a senior clinical psychologist here at St John of God Hospital, working with our addictions team and our outpatients. She's vast experience in working with adults with various mental health difficulties, including individuals with difficulties with addictions, mood disorders, complex personality vulnerabilities, brain injuries, autistic spectrum disorders, ADHD, and various other neurodevelopmental difficulties, and is skilled in the area of complex psychological assessment and various forms of psychological therapy. She specialises in the area of dual diagnosis and supports patients who attend our inpatient rehabilitation programme here at St John of God Hospital regarding their mental health needs. Dr. Watchorn was also appointed Adjunct Assistant Professor in the UCD School of Psychology in 2023 in light of her contributions to research, and also lectures on the doctoral programme in counselling psychology at Trinity College Dublin. Many of you may know her as she's also contributed to various media pieces over the years in the form of newspaper articles and also radio interviews. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Dr. Amy Watchorn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Damien, and thank you everyone for being here today for the first of the public lecture series. I'm here to chair today's session, and before we start, I just want to introduce you to Dr. Angela Mullins, who is our senior counselling psychologist, and she's going to be speaking to you today about the links between mental health, diet, and the body. So Angela has been a really, really amazing presence in our department for the last few years. She's incredibly committed to her work and so dynamic in everything that she does. She's a senior chartered counselling psychologist, and she works in the inpatient specialised eating disorder team and in the outpatient psychology department here in St John of God Hospital. She's worked in the area of eating disorders for a decade. In the UK, she's contributed to the development of the primary care pathway for eating disorder treatment with Mind in Bexley, as well as contributing to the Freed early intervention for eating disorder treatment care pathway and has also been involved in research in Vincent Square Hospital in London. She has also worked with this population of people with eating disorders across outpatient, day hospital, and inpatient settings. Her doctoral thesis focused on the lived experience of the anorexic voice from the point of illness onset through to recovery. And she has previously worked across primary, secondary, and specialised services in the private sector, charity sector, and within the NHS. Outside of her work in the area of eating disorders, she has also worked with various ages and populations of people who've experienced an array of issues such as mood disorders, trauma-based complexities, anxiety disorders, depression, substance misuse, and physical health conditions. She has contributed to research conducted by Professor Van Herwegen in Kingston University in London, as well as to research on goal setting in therapy and collaborating pluralistically with clients with Professor Mick Copper at Roehampton University. She's enthusiastic about research and hopes to continue this interest in her role here in St. John of God Hospital. She is a keen advocate for supporting the next generation of budding psychologists and has mentored various mental health practitioners, including assistant psychologists and psychological wellbeing practitioners. And she was an honorary committee member of the Division of Counselling Psychology, Education and Research Department for the British Psychological Society. And she also enjoys teaching and is an honorary guest lecturer at London Metropolitan University and Goldsmith University, teaching the counselling psychology doctoral students and CBT therapy trainees. So today she'll be talking about mental health, diet and the body, which I think is extremely timely, given that the topic of anorexia is very much in the media at the moment in the public eye, especially when there's a documentary even tonight on RTE around anorexia, my family and me, which is held later this evening. So without further ado, I just want to bring you and introduce you to Dr. Mullins.
Is it working? Is this working? No. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. I'll try and do my acrobats here. Okay. So you're very welcome to Minding the Mind. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Amy. I hope tonight proves fruitful. There will be an opportunity for questions and Amy and I will talk through them. But first I'd like to introduce you to the topic. So mental health, diet and the body. So the agenda for tonight, so it's really important to introduce you to the concept of mental health, what mental health is, what we're talking about. I'll move then into thinking with you about important ways food influences the brain. Food and mood is a really important topic that we'll talk about, and then we will have a look at sleep. I'll finish it with body image. In terms of the topics for tonight, so I will do some talking, there will be slides, but there will also be some videos, which I think will be important to kind of send home kind of some of the messages that the topic tonight is talking about. Okay. All right, so our mental health is the foundation of our house. So any foundation needs to be secure in order for the structure to be secure. Foundations keep a structure strong, secure, and allow flexibility. If it's too rigid, it will break. Even bridges sway. A good foundation, for example, in a house will manage things like rising damp, the redistribution of water. And that's important because we want to keep our foundation safe and we want to keep the structure safe. A good foundation allows the structure to adapt, to change, to grow accordingly while staying connected to its immediate surrounding. And that's what I want you to know about what mental health is. But I would like to introduce you to this video that I will show you on mental health. And I think it explains quite eloquently a little bit more about the idea of a foundation and the idea of mental health as being on a continuum.
We all have mental health. It is just as important as physical health. It is not only about mental illness or mental disorders. This is just one part of a bigger picture. It's best to think about mental health as being on a continuum, rather than people being either mentally ill or mentally well. We are all on a continuum, and we move up and down according to factors such as our genetic makeup and upbringing, our life circumstances, and the stresses we are under. At one end of the continuum, we have mental disorders, like depression or anxiety. And at the other end, we have states of positive mental health, when we're thriving, content, and fulfilled. The aim of mental health interventions is to move people up the continuum so that they're able to reach their full potential and live satisfying lives. The World Health Organization describes mental health as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Being mentally healthy means being resilient and able to cope with difficult times, feeling in control, being confident, feeling good about yourself, managing and expressing your emotions, building and maintaining good relationships. We all experience periods when we feel stressed, worried, anxious, sad, afraid, or angry. These are all normal emotions. However, when these emotions become severe enough that it interferes with the person's ability to function daily, and these feelings become persistent over time, then it can develop into a mental health problem. There are many different types of mental disorders. When left untreated, mental disorders can be chronic and long-lasting, and are associated with increased disability. They significantly have an impact on daily functioning and frequently interfere with family, social, and work responsibilities. Fortunately, there are effective treatments and evidence-based interventions available that aim to help individuals understand and cope with symptoms of mental illness. However, very few people with mental disorders access existing treatment services. This may be due to barriers such as the stigma attached to seeking help, the lack of understanding of mental health problems, uncertainty of how to get help, or the fear of disclosing mental health problems. Research shows that stigma remains one of the biggest factors preventing people from seeking help early for their mental health problems and getting the appropriate support they need. It is important to acknowledge that we all have mental health and have a personal responsibility to learn how we can improve and maintain our well-being in order to lead meaningful and satisfying lives.
Okay, so as the video eloquently sums up, our mental health is on a continuum. Now, what else is mental health? So I asked an audience of a family workshop that I was running, what do you think makes up good mental health? And I put it together what they told me. So we're talking about reasonable worry. We cannot get rid of worry, but reasonable worry can constitute good mental health. Having a connection with oneself is really important. Feeling secure. Having meaningful connections with others. Having pleasurable experiences and satisfaction in relationships can constitute having good mental health. Managing expectations and pressure. Feeling emotions but not being controlled by them. Goal-seeking, drive and motivation are really key. But managing stress and the demands of life. Sleep hygiene is really important and not being overly burdened by responsibility. A sense of achievement and a good level of value, worth and self-esteem. Regulating eating and exercise, and having autonomy in decision making. So tonight we will talk a little bit about some of these aspects, in particular related to kind of regulating eating and exercise, sleep hygiene as well, and thinking about our body in terms of a good level of value, worth and self-esteem. Okay, so we're going to have a look a little bit at Irish statistics on mental health. What is research saying? So research in 2022 by academics from Maynooth University, the National College of Ireland and Trinity College found from a population sample of 1,100 people that 42% of adults in Ireland are likely to be experiencing a mental health disorder at any one point in time. Now, this is not uncommon. This mirrors results found from the World Health Organization in New Zealand and in the US. Notable issues: depression, anxiety, insomnia, substance misuse. Now, I won't go into the intricacies of each of those issues, but what's important to note when we are thinking about mental health on a continuum is that as much as this is highlighting the struggles that people are having, there are two faces to every coin. Because Hellowell et al. In 2024, the World Happiness Report from the University of Oxford, had a look at the happiness of people during different life stages and of those in different generations, and found that overall Ireland ranks 17th of 143 countries polled. So that's not doing too bad. So this is saying that yes, we can struggle with our mental health, and at the same time things can be okay for us, and we are allowed to be content at times. So it's just thinking about that ebb and flow, that continuum within our mental health. This is something that we are looking at through the course of our lifetime. Okay, so it's not black and white, and at times we do struggle. If we are thinking about this idea of a coin, one coin, two faces, our body can be applied to that as well. At times, our body can be really unhelpful and give us lots of very uncomfortable symptoms, say, of anxiety. But our body is also really helpful because what is causing us discomfort can also bring soothing for us. So we cannot talk about our body without thinking hand in hand about our mental health. And in order to talk about regulating our body, it's really important that we talk about our diets. So again, our mental health is on a continuum, and we ebb and flow through our lifetime on this continuum. One major contributing factor to enhancing our chances of moving towards good mental health is our diet. So important ways food influences the brain. So we will have a look at, and I'll tell you about food, the physical building blocks of our brain, and food choices equating to mood choices. Okay, so how does our body go about using food for fuel? So food, in terms of the body, it's the maintenance of life. Everything we eat, our nutritional diet, is really key for organ function, our digestion, keeping us warm, keeping us cool. We are a living organism, and we need fluid, and we need food and fuel to support that organism. We need fuel in terms of food because we go about our busy lives, our voluntary activities, our exercise, everything is energy. Sitting down, listening to me is energy. Me standing here talking to you is energy. And we'll only get that energy through food. Our body is really important because it serves for special purposes, for growth, pregnancy, breastfeeding, for example. Our body is really clever because it can use up energy when it needs it, but it also stores energy, which is really key. So a little bit more about the building blocks. So I've just taken a snippet of 2 food groups, which I hear all the time people talking about. So fats and carbohydrates. And I've included fluid because it is important to know what would be a reasonable amount of fluid to have in our diet. So fat. Okay, so why is it important? Well, it protects our internal organs. It helps to insulate the body. There are certain vitamins that actually are only absorbed into our body if we have enough fat in our body. Certain vitamins like vitamin A, so that's really good for your eye health, growth, and immunity. And you need enough fat stores in your body to pull in vitamin A, for example. Vitamin D, this is our bone health, the health of our teeth and our muscles. Vitamin E is good for optimizing healthy skin and eyes. So having fats like avocado, nuts, and oils in our diet are really, really important key factors. Okay, carbohydrates. Carbohydrate regulates blood sugar levels. So what does that mean? It means that if we have chronically high sugar levels, it can cause fatigue, frequent infections, poor wound healing. So it is important that we get it regulated. But too low a blood sugar level, we're looking at dizziness, shaking, irregular heartbeat, this kind of thing. But carbohydrates are the body's preferred source of energy. So if I'm talking to you about fueling your body prefers carbohydrates. If there was a plate of protein and carbohydrate, your body will push away protein as its source of energy and take carbohydrate. So it's really, really important. So you're looking at things like, rice, potatoes, bread, this kind of thing. So stay hydrated. Many foods, when we're cooking, for example, absorb liquid. So you can get liquid in through your food. We also drink cups of tea and, glasses of water throughout the day, if not cups of coffee. So you are getting your liquid in, for example, through, different kinds of drinks that you're having. But stay mindful, because excessive fluid in the body can push out important electrolytes like sodium. And then we can get really unpleasant symptoms from that, called hyponatremia. If it's a hot day and you want extra hydrants, for example, we don't have to necessarily drink more glasses of water. You can put ice in your water, you can put lemon and cucumber, you can hydrate yourself that way. Okay, so food, the physical building blocks of the brain. Okay, so unsaturated fats, omega-3s, B12s, like I was saying, things like avocado, cooking oil, nuts, enrich the brain neurons, promoting healthy cognition. Folate, vitamin B9, really important for red blood cell formation. And this is food like sprouts, leafy greens, cauliflower. Flavonoids are biological pigments extensively represented in plants, but are largely found in fruits, chocolate, parsley, onions, and beverages like tea and coffee. I've listed cocoa flavonoids because actually they have the highest flavin in them, and that contributes to antioxidant properties. So really, really good for us. And anti-inflammatory properties. Really good for cardiovascular health and again, cognitive function. Magnesium, rich foods like dairy products, carbs like potatoes, beans and greens. Really good for migraine. If you suffer from migraine, make sure you're having optimal magnesium, lowering blood pressure, and of course, brain health. So like I was saying earlier, this idea of the same coin and two faces. Ideas around healthy eating can sometimes be taken too far. If healthy eating becomes too rigid and extreme, it can damage rather than promote our health. And that includes our mental health. If we don't allow our body to have the fuel it requires, and we end up with chronic hunger, starvation, or malnutrition, then it's highly detrimental. It disrupts the balance of essential nutrients and neurotransmitters in our brain. Serotonin and dopamine, which are involved in the regulation of mood, appetite, and cognition, are out of kilter. Therefore, our mood is out of kilter. Our concentration is not on point. We could experience impaired cognitive functions, leading to fatigue, weakness, irritation, poor memory, and then we're not very pleasant to be around. We will not want to be interacting with others if we are feeling this way. Fluctuating blood sugar levels. And so I'd mentioned about high blood sugar levels, low blood sugar levels, and if you're moving between the two, it's not going to feel very pleasant at all. Okay. So we know certain foods can certainly contribute positively to our health, and we can also see that not eating enough is detrimental. So, you might be asking yourself, well, what about processed food? Isn't that bad for me? Isn't that junk food? Should I be eating that? Well, actually, all food is welcome. If you're really exhausted from a long day or you're in physical pain, then having a ready-made meal is better than not eating at all. So some food processing is cooking just done by somebody else. And small amounts of processed food can occasionally be really helpful for us. If we want to socialize, if we are, too tired, like I was saying, to be doing extensive cooking. So everything in moderation. So some processed foods, they are high in sugar, fat, and salt. And so we're just thinking about being sensible with these. But to eliminate them altogether is not helpful. Okay, so what about additives and preservatives? Are they not bad for me? So we're thinking about preservatives keep us safe by preventing the growth of harmful organisms and reduce food waste by preventing spoilage. All additives, are tested rigorously. Some are not essential, for example, like colouring. But if you wanted to, bake cupcakes and you wanted to have coloured icing, by all means use colour in your icing. It is an additive, but it's just about being reasonable. So for most people, strict avoidance of additives is of no benefit and can limit the choice of food available or interfere with family life or social eating. So food choices and mood choices. So we're just kind of putting it all together. So what have we learned so far? So contributing factors that support healthy mind and body, what kinds of foods can support our brain health, our body health. Having an awareness of the quality and quantity of our food choices. On one end of the continuum, we can acknowledge the benefits of varied food groups for supporting us. Equally, we've learned that nutritional deprivation is detrimental to the brain and the body. So can food choices regulate mood? Yes, they can. So at the bottom of the axis on this graph, this is a structured eating pattern. So on the left-hand side on the bottom, we have overnight, no food intake. So we've been sleeping for maybe 6, 7, those of us that are lucky are sleeping 8 hours. But you're going to be sleeping overnight, so you're not going to be having anything to eat. So what's happening? So your blood sugars are low. Your body wants fuel. Your body is hungry. And we know that because if you look at the y-axis, which runs down on the left-hand side, that's energy and blood glucose level. We don't want it to be very low because that comes with very unpleasant symptoms. And we don't want it to be very high because equally that comes with very unpleasant symptoms. So we're looking for a comfort level. And on the right-hand side in the middle, it says comfort zone. Not an exact number, just comfortable, just reasonable. And if we're thinking about, regulating our mood, we then need to equally think about regulating our eating because eating impacts our mood. So if we have one main meal, our breakfast, for example, we're moving into a comfortable zone. We've given our body enough fuel. We might want to snack in the morning because we use up the majority of our energy early in the day. We might have lunch, dinner, and another snack. You can personalize it. The point of this is just noticing that food can help us regulate what's happening in our body, therefore help regulate what's happening with our mental health, in particular our mood. This graph is communicating consistency with eating and allowing choice in our decision making about what we want to eat. Regulating eating can indeed regulate mood. As the graph indicated, consistency and choice lend itself to the probability of balance in both mind and body. Eating 3 meals, and if we choose regular snacks on top of that, it means we don't have to face big meals in the day. It means we have manageable gaps between our eating. It can help us avoid feeling that we've lost control of eating, or, it can help us ensure that we're getting a range of nutrients that we need. We can avoid unpleasant symptoms from very high or very low blood sugars. The Recovery from Eating Disorders for Life Food Pyramid. The important piece of this picture, of this pyramid, is in the title. It's called the For Life Pyramid. This is implying, and quite correctly, that regular, normal, everyday eating should be inclusive of all food groups and types. Each category contributes significantly to quality of life, quality of physical health, and importantly, quality of mental health. At the very top, you'll notice it says on the left-hand side, take care. So we don't eliminate food, nor do we label food as good or bad, because it's what we do with it that matters. If we are having, say, fun food and social eating, surely that's not a bad thing. If we're engaging with our friends and having meaningful connections, surely that's not junk or rubbish. Having our nuts, oils and fats, some of that every day, can contribute significantly to the health of our body, therefore the health of our mental health, and that it branches out and has a ripple effect to those in our life and how we are interacting with them and ourselves. Again, you'll notice fluid, including water, is a little triangle down on the right, because we don't need to flood ourselves with copious amounts of liquid. Everything in moderation. We just say at the very top about diet food and fillers like coffee, because coffee can give us energy, but it's not the body's preferred source of energy. The body prefers food, but it gives us energy nonetheless. But it's just about take care with that, because behind the scenes of that energy, you may actually be hungry. But all food is welcome. Because food is about sharing connection. It's a cultural expression. It's an expression of love. It's comfort. It's artistic and creative. It's symbolic. It is part of family and national identity and tradition. It's religious celebration. It can be restorative and healing. Keeping a balance in dietary intake keeps a balance in mental and physical health. But take care of yourself. If for medical reasons you require the elimination of or reduction of certain food groups, know you can still access all the benefits to your mental health your existing diet has to offer. Okay, so the body and mental health. So now we have a good understanding of structured eating with autonomy over choice of foods to regulate mind and body. I want to come to talking about our body maybe more broadly and discuss how we can influence our mental health and support optimal mental health. So let's talk about sleep. A good laugh and a long sleep are two of the best cures for anything. I chose this because actually I live by this. I think this is very fun. Okay, so Scott et al. 2021, Improving Sleep Quality Leads to Better Mental Health, found a significant medium-size effect of sleep on mental health. Insomnia sufferers were 17 times more likely to experience significant levels of depression compared to non-insomnia sufferers. So sleep is really, really important. Some researchers argue against definitive set hours required for optimal physical restoration from sleep. The quality of human sleep and optimum sleep requirement is remarkably dependent on environmental conditions, social norms, age, and individual traits such as hormones. But what can influence the above further are each person's unique chronotype. Chronotypes are natural preferences for the body for wakefulness and sleep. Influenced by genetics and driven by our circadian rhythm, chronotypes affect sleep as well as day activity. Adapting to our chronotype can improve our sleep quality, energy, and mood. There are 4 distinct chronotypes. We have a lion, a bear, a wolf, and a dolphin. So the lion, so who are they? Who are these people? Early to bed, early to rise. About 15 to 20% of the general adult population are lions. This type of sleep pattern is good for cardiovascular health and mood. So lions tend to get the majority of, say, their heavy tasks done early in the day. But don't expect them to stay up late with you because that's not going to happen. So, maybe ask the bear, do they want to stay up late with you? Because bears are still active in the evening. They're not quite ready for bed at 10 o'clock. And about 50% of the adult population are bears. So prone to undersleeping during the week, they might sleep more on the weekends, for example. And how is that important? Why is that important to know? Because if you understand your sleep pattern, you can, live your life accordingly to ensure that you're getting, optimal rest periods while getting your activities and what you need to get done at the certain points in the day where you're noticing you're more active, you're more alert. Now, albeit our, busy lifestyle or our work patterns, might not support that, but it is really key to understand what happens us with our sleep and what our sleep type is. So again, about 15 to 20% of the population are wolves. They typically perform at their best around 7 hours after sleep. So this can be tough kind of for them when they're meeting work and social demands. So they kind of need a higher amount of sleep. A dolphin, they are tired during the day and they're wired and restless at night. They have a nervous energy about them. So before bed, for example, a dolphin might, a human, not an actual dolphin, might benefit from a hot bath or a hot shower, but they're quite restless, they're quite anxious, they're quite agitated. Okay, so again, understanding our body to help us understand our mind, and our body and mind regulation can support that foundation in our mental health. Regulating our body through things like yoga. So the British Journal of Psychiatry reports yoga to be a promising complementary and alternative non-pharmacological option in the management and prevention of mental disorders. The good thing about yoga is that there's many different types. It concentrates on the breath. So breath work can tie in here as well. Yoga can be suitable for all ages. And with breath work, non-clinical populations, it has been found to be really helpful in non-clinical populations in reducing stress. Exercise. If you're new to exercise, start slowly. Choose something that fits your lifestyle. Consistency is key with exercise. Don't focus on outcomes. Focus on the enjoyment of it, of the connection with your mind and body with exercise. And if it's helpful, do exercise with others. Make it social. So we're moving into talking about our body a little bit more now, and so how we see ourselves. And if we're talking about body image, it's important to relay, well, what is body image? So body image is our internal representation of our external appearance, but includes our perceptions, thoughts, beliefs, feelings, and behaviours. So factors influencing our body image, our opinions from other people, our social environment, media, and the management of our body all influence how we view our body image. In 2009, Irish research found that young people's opinions of their bodies came from the media, but the biggest influence was peer acceptance. They were looking to the media for fit inspiration and diet inspiration, and what they were seeking was peer acceptance. Using media reasonably can be helpful for us, but an overuse or reliance on media to tell us who we are can be really detrimental. In young people, peer acceptance and life satisfaction comes from a sense of belonging. So if they're seeking life satisfaction and peer acceptance, and then they're, kind of having a look at media because they're concerned about being accepted, you can get into a bind. So there is a lot more kind of research coming out now about that, about young people and the media and how they view their bodies. Okay, so we can get caught up in how we want to be seen above how we feel inside our body. I like to use this body image spectrum to think about how we can move through an experience that we're having in terms of our body image. So the body spectrum demonstrates that how we feel about our body is not black or white, but it's on a spectrum. And through the course of our lifetime, we can ebb and flow on this spectrum. On the far left is body hate, and then we move to body respect. Most people underestimate where they actually lie on this spectrum. Body respect is about respecting that your body has physical needs. If it's cold, you want to make it warm. Looking after our body. Body acceptance is waving a white flag and saying, I'm not going to discriminate against my body. I'm not going to try and keep changing things that I cannot change about my body. Body appreciation is thinking about my body serves a really important function and it allows me to engage in life in a meaningful way with other people in my life that are, mean a lot to me. We don't have to be at body peace or confidence or liberation. I think, moving from body respect to body acceptance can be a nice place to start. So I want to show you this video of 3 young people talking honestly about body image.
I think a lot of it has to do with the media.
For young boys, my age and younger are really obsessed with what they look like. And to be honest, I'm one of them.
I've known people that are obsessed with their body, whether it's male or female, in terms of dieting more or working out more.
They look at magazines and they want that body.
When they see the way that these people are portrayed and they see this information from the media, they begin to feel even worse about themselves than they may already feel.
We get so focused on our imperfections sometimes that it's hard to see past those and see the things that are beautiful about us.
When someone looks at a treasure chest, they don't say, oh, the treasure chest is dirty and old on the outside. They want to know what's inside of it. So that's what counts.
We really all are beautiful and we all have beautiful things about us, whether it's internally or externally. Sometimes we just need help seeing those things.
Okay. So feeling good about and in our body helps support our mental health. Seeking out things that make us feel good are really, really important to get to understand who we are within a body. And living a value-based life can be a really important way to move away from being overly body-focused. So what is a value-based life? So thinking about things that we value, whether it's health, or charity, or education, or the environment. And then thinking each day what we can do where we are living according to our values. Often, if we are experiencing a mental health distress in some respects, we are living an incongruent life with our values. And if we align our values with our life, it can balance out our mental health. So thinking about our values as guiding principles. In summary, to keep moving on the continuum towards good mental well-being, we can scaffold atop our foundation the following. Appreciate what is happening right now. Living a value-based life. You are not your thoughts. They inform you about what's happening, but they are not your master. Stay in the present. See yourself from a distance. Know your values and use them as your guiding principles in life. And make a committed action to live your values. So we were talking about mental health on a continuum. This is something that will happen throughout our lifetime. Important ways that food influences the brain, the body, our mood. Food is very much connected to mood. Our sleep and understanding what kind of sleep pattern you have will give you a good idea of your energy levels in the day, but also the kind of rest that you need so that you can recuperate. And then our body image. So I think that concludes the talk. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, Angela, for that really informative talk. I mean, I think you covered so many interesting topics. I'm really struck by the idea of mental health as a continuum. I think that's really, really helpful for people to remind themselves that it isn't, good or bad. There's actually a spectrum in between, and it's a journey, and it's constantly changing, that ebb, that flow as well. So, and again, I think that kind of feeds through everything you're saying about kind of food, sleep. It's all really about balance. It's finding that middle ground, because so often I think we get caught up with kind of being one extreme or the other. There's so much information out there, and even in your last video around media, there's so much information, you can get completely overwhelmed by it. So it's really helpful just to bring it back and bring it back to the middle ground. So I think that was really, really interesting to listen to. So thank you so much for that. So we have a break now for about 15 minutes. So you all have some paper there in front of you. So if anyone has any questions and they'd like to write them down, we'll be collecting them, and then we'll be hopefully answering a few of them before we finish up today. I believe there's also maybe people on the live feed who might also want to have questions. So we'll try and answer a few of your questions. But as I said, you have a break now. So thank you very much. Okay, so we have just a few minutes now just to go through some of the questions that you very kindly gave us. We won't have time to cover all of them, but we'll try and get through a selection of the really interesting questions that you have asked of us today. So do you want to start with that one there, Angela?
Yeah. Really good questions. Somebody was asking about, kind of if I have maybe a medical issue, this kind of thing, and I wanted to think about, is food related, helpful or hindering it? What would be really important there is to seek, medical advice. So have a chat with your GP kind of thing and see, is there anything else happening for you? In terms of, kind of might food kind of say influence, kind of any physical issues like rash or something like that, I would suggest, kind of speak to a dietitian in relation to that. So dietitians have a scientific background. There is a difference between dietitians and nutritionists. So, first seek, kind of medical advice and kind of then see where to go from there. If food is, kind of maybe, kind of coming up as more of a suspect in what's happening physically, definitely seek out a dietitian, and they would be able to kind of guide you on, kind of how to have all the nutrients in your diet, but kind of maybe eliminate or reduce the culprit food if that is the case.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of misinformation out there. There's a lot of information out there, and it can sometimes be very overwhelming. So it's really important to kind of go back to, the kind of, I suppose, really well researched sources. So medical professionals are really your first port of call, dietitians. I think if you start there, your chances of getting good information is important. And then after that, obviously yourselves best. So being able to kind of, see what works for you. It's not one size fits all, but start with getting the good advice rather than taking it from social media, for example, where it may not actually be very accurate, or there might be just a lot of inconsistency in it as well.
Yeah, great. Okay. So somebody was talking about, kind of maybe walking first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. So, again, like I was saying about kind of say structured eating, it's not rigid. So it is about being flexible. And, within say the hour window of waking up, if you have something to eat, that can actually support your blood sugar levels so that you're not outside walking and getting faint, this kind of thing. And, it's thinking about, your lifestyle. For some people, when they wake up in the morning, and if they're working from home, for example, they want to get out and get some fresh air. And it's like, kind of resetting their mind that, yeah, I'm kind of on my way to work, this kind of thing. They might get up, go for a 20-minute walk, half an hour walk, come back, have something to eat, and then kind of start their day. So it really kind of just depends on what your lifestyle is. It's not kind of black or white that, kind of with structured eating that the minute I wake up and I have to have this and I have to have my snack at this time. It's, how do you integrate it into your lifestyle so that it doesn't become like a chore kind of thing. It's just an ebb and a flow. It's a part and parcel of like your everyday and how you go about your day.
Great. So we have a question here just around asking, could we just comment on dietary intake, depression, and body image? So, obviously there are certainly links between the three, as Angela has been speaking about in her presentation today. Our mood is affected by our food intake, and equally our mood can affect how we manage our diet as well. So, it can become a vicious cycle. If you're depressed, you can end up having reduced appetite, or you might start eating kind of a lot of, unhealthy or unhelpful foods, junk foods, because it's easier or because you're looking for some comfort. And then that can have a knock-on effect on your mental health because you start to end up feeling quite self-critical about that. And that can have a knock-on effect on your body image. So they are absolutely linked with each other. So it would be very important if you find yourself getting caught up in that kind of cycle, to try and address the mood difficulties. That might mean taking medication, going to therapy, activating, and then obviously trying to balance eating. And by looking after, the physical and the mental sides, the hope is that you would kind of stop getting into this vicious cycle where one kind of begets the other. Not always easy, but, with the right supports, it is something that can be kind of, I suppose, managed more effectively.
Yeah, great. And another, kind of great question here, kind of thinking about if you're unsure about your personal values, what could be a good way to go about finding out about what you value, so you can think about your guiding principles in life. There's actually a really great Russ Harris has a really great book called The Happiness Trap. And he actually developed acceptance and commitment therapy, which talks a lot about, kind of living according to our values and having our values as our guiding principles. And the good news is Russ Harris has made all of his work available online for free in PDF format. So if you Google Russ Harris, ACT, A-C-T, and The Happiness Trap, you'll find some really, really good worksheets there. It's a really good book to read. It's really easy to read and makes a lot of sense. So if you're thinking about kind of your personal values, that would be a nice place to start, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think, the reality is not everyone gets a chance to think about these things. Life is very busy. We don't often have time to sit and reflect about ourselves or the kind of things that are important to us. So even just taking time out to try things or reflect on things can help you to figure out what's important to you. And Russ Harris, as Angela said, has some really, really great stuff on that.
Seven. Is it Ross?
Yeah.
Russ, yeah, Russ, yeah, Harris, yeah. He's Australian, so, and he has loads of videos on YouTube. Yeah, really great.
Thank you.
So we have another question here just about someone asked, how important are friendships and hobbies for good mental health? I think the answer would be, very important. That piece around social connectivity is so much a part of what makes us feel well in ourselves. As Angela was saying, food has a huge role in social connectivity. So, I was really struck by those images that you had up of all those people connecting through food. So, social connection and reducing loneliness has a hugely positive impact on our mental health. There's a lot of research out there that loneliness is one of the biggest kind of negative impacts on mental health, and certainly there's a lot of research being done in that area at the moment. And connecting with people through hobbies, maintaining friendships, it can be challenging, but it is really, really important. If people are finding it a struggle to connect with others, I would say maybe trying to take up new things, being open to new experiences. There's a lot of good groups out there now, like Meetup is really good for meeting people through different ways. Sports are obviously very good. Evening classes, this is a great time of year for those. And there's also a really good new kind of, service called social prescribing. So socialprescribingireland.com is the website. And social prescribing was originally brought in a few years ago, where GPs would kind of try and connect you with a social coordinator, so to speak. And that person would meet with someone who maybe was struggling with isolation and loneliness, and would help them to try and figure out what maybe within their community they might want to try and access, but maybe hadn't been aware of or didn't have the confidence to engage in. And so those social prescribers will then kind of, support someone in that journey to trying things. So, it might be joining a local club, it might be joining an active retirement group or a men's shed or a women's shed, but allowing someone to try things out, and they will kind of support them to see how they're getting on. So it's not just, this is your list of things, off you go. It's more actually you can meet up with them, check in, and if things aren't working, you can try something different. So there's quite, this has become a massive thing in the last few years. It was barely in existence in 2020, but now there's a lot of these different kind of coordinations available. So if you go on the website Social Prescribing Ireland, you'll find there's several in every county at this point in time. So well worth engaging in if someone is feeling like they're struggling with isolation, and certainly the impact on the mental health would be profound. So we would be encouraging everyone to try and engage with hobbies and activities with other people.
Okay, great. So somebody asked, could I elaborate on you are not your thoughts? So yeah, I had that in the slide. I suppose kind of just, kind of to talk about that a little bit. In terms of if our mental health is not great, the kinds of things that we're thinking about ourselves or saying to ourselves also may not be great. And therefore, we can have all kinds of thoughts. But if, for example, we're not feeling too good in our mental health, we might be kind of having more negative automatic thoughts, this kind of thing, where we are believing all the things we're thinking, like, I'm a terrible person, or I can't get this right, and, I'm not able to, engage with this person socially, I should miss the party, all these kinds of things. And we're just bringing ourselves down. And so I suppose when I'm saying, if we reframe that and think, well, I'm having a thought as opposed to I am my thoughts, it gives us a bit of distance from maybe some of those kind of negative thoughts, those critical thoughts. And we could even kind of, envision, oh, here comes that, kind of negative thought train passing by kind of thing. So, creating a little bit of distance from negative thoughts, if we're not feeling so good in ourselves, can support us to not kind of spiral down a little bit deeper, kind of, in that. So equally, and like I was saying in my talk as well, the flip side of the same coin is that if we speak to ourselves in kind of more loving kindness, our brain actually really loves that. Our brain loves love. So equally, if we speak to ourselves in a very encouraging tone, if we cheerlead ourselves, we can really prompt ourselves, kind of say, yeah, I can do that. Why couldn't I? I'm able to. So it is that kind of flip side of the same coin. So just kind of, be mindful that we do just have kind of thoughts coming and going. It's just how your brain works. Some of them we want to catch them if they're helpful, and some of them if they're actually not helpful, just let them go.
Yeah, and I think also it's important to recognise that thoughts are not usually facts. Thoughts are opinions. So, when we're having thoughts, they're not based in reality, they're not based on evidence, they're actually just an opinion. And if you're having one particular opinion, there's hundreds of other ways of looking at that situation or looking at yourself. So just as Angela was saying, trying to distance yourself from that thought, maybe looking at it, being curious with it, these are the kind of CBT principles that are really helpful at times. But I always come back to that, like remembering that thoughts are not facts, because once you realise that, then you realise, well, actually, maybe I'm looking at it from one angle and forgetting 100 other ways of looking at it. So we have one last question, or two questions just to go through today, and that'll be the end of our talk. So someone was just asking two questions. One was, how long does it take to form for good habits to form? And then the other one was, how long does it take to form an addiction? So just I suppose dealing with the first piece, there's a lot of research into how to form good habits, and it's really varied. So, it can be anywhere between I think I read somewhere that it's somewhere between 6 weeks and 6 months. So it really, really depends on what it is, and it depends on someone's motivation and how much time they're able to put into whatever it is that they're trying to do. So, for example, if you've taken up a hobby like running, it requires dedication, it requires perseverance, and, it requires patience with yourself as well. So everyone is different, and everything we're trying to develop as a habit, it takes time. But if you keep, I suppose, consistently doing that, so if it's running, that you get out, you put on your runners and you get out and you do the first kilometre, and you just keep building on that slowly but steadily, a habit will form. And the more you do it in that consistent approach, in moderation, habits do come with time. But it's vastly different depending on what it is you're trying to do, and also each person is different as well. So if you're one of those people who takes 6 weeks, fair play to you. I'd definitely be more than 6 months. So it just depends. But being patient with yourself and persevering is a big part of forming good habits. In terms of how long does it take to form an addiction, that's a really complex question. Addiction is a very complex subject, and we won't have time to go into that in great detail today. But you're talking about, there's biological aspects to it, there is the psychological aspects, there's a huge amount of social piece in it as well. So it really is very hard to answer a question like that, because again, there's a lot of individual variability, and you need to look at the circumstances in which a person is living as well. So if someone is feeling that they're getting into an addiction, whether it's to do with food or substances or something else, what I would recommend is, seeking professional advice on that. There's a lot of good kind of, I suppose, supportive websites out there in terms of things like alcohol and gambling. There is more awareness around food as well. So there's a lot of good professional support. So if anyone has concerns about that, I would encourage them to reach out to those and seek that advice and then take it from there. And I hope that's helpful. So that concludes our discussion for today. Thank you all very much for your attendance. I hope it was of interest to you.